Okay, so it's time for the weekly blog. Now, I was going to do a written one, but I just this minute finished every single interior page for the comic except for the introduction page, which is going to be mainly writing. So, I want to show what I've done, but the OBS Streamlabs won't let me, for some reason, show Microsoft Word as an independent window, so I have to record my entire display. So it will look a little bit freaky for a minute, so please bear with me. So yeah, that you can see there, it's my my Windows set up for the stream. So I won't be able to see anymore, so hold on a moment. So what I'm going to show here is basically what I have so far. Now this is going to be the introduction page, which isn't finished yet, and then some of these are spread pages, so they will be inside and there'll be one page each side to make one whole image. So ignoring the fact that it's like 1, 2, 3, I'm going to be adding another page for the copyright and all that malarkey that I need to put in, so it will eventually balance out. So everything so far is in flat colours. It will stay in flat colours until the first volume is complete. When it is complete, I will combine all of the pages together and make it into a volume, which will then have the shading in it. But at the moment, the next few issues, when they come out, will be in flat colours like this. And I decided to do a character roster at the back of every single issue. When it comes to doing the volume, I will be removing the character roster that you see at each issue and combining every single character that appears in that volume into one single page which has all their details. So now there was a change in how I was going to have this story be told, because originally it was going to be told by James, or Jimmy, who is this the blonde spiky haired kid. It was going to be told by him, but at the last minute I changed the narrator, and I'm not giving away anything about who this narrator actually is, other than they are based about 25, 26 years in the future from the final events that happen. So from this scene at the very start, which is here, he is based about 25, 26 years in the future from that. And he is basically an independent journalist, or investigative journalist, I should say. But he is on his own, so he is also independent. And he's researching into basically what started this mess, because at his point in time, certain people who are actually being prosecuted for the events that take place, and a lot of things are in the news at his time, in his time period. And a lot of people might not remember certain things. So it's like this incident that took place in Los Angeles where Tim locked himself away was probably broadcast in the local news, but it wasn't broadcast across the globe really until certain things played out a little bit later in the story. So if you've read the books, the incidents that happen after Codename Bloodhound, which is Volume 2, brings what happened regarding Tim's experimentation and the massacre that happened in Los Angeles. That all comes to light to the world. And certain things Tim does in Codename Bloodhound also make those issues a bit more I can't really think of the word, but basically it makes things worse, and a lot of characters who would have not been involved before with the case, because it turns into a case, obviously someone's investigating. A lot of characters who weren't previously involved directly, such as the character known as Helena, she ends up being involved with it more than she'd like, and the characters who survive at the end of Codename Bloodhound are brought back to the USA to face either trial or to basically give testimony. Now, the likes of Tim's gang, they engaged in criminal activities, but a lot of those activities wouldn't have taken place if Tim and his friends didn't get the super soldier formula that the General Tillis and that lot were working on. So basically it is all because of them. So James and Kyle and a couple of other characters, they come back and speak as witnesses in these trials, and basically it's certain members of the government. I mean, if you remember, if you've read Codename Bloodhound, the lady known to Tim only as the Laughing Bitch, she is basically put at the front of this trial as the sole responsible figure behind the project. So she is being prosecuted at the highest level. Tillis, depending on which multiverse is used, he will be prosecuted, or he won't be alive to be prosecuted. So basically, characters who were directly involved with getting Tim his superpowers are being put on trial, and people want to learn more about how this story even took place, why this court case is even happening. So lots of newspaper and news agencies obviously are spewing out a lot of stories, and they're grabbing hold of the journals that Tim wrote and James wrote and saying, look, this is the facts, this is it. When really everything Tim said in the first volume, which is Hunt Down, everything he wrote in that journal is supposed to be taken with a grain of salt, because he likes to embellish things, he likes to make things sound more exciting than they really were. And anything he can do really to make himself look better, he'll do it, even though he willingly admits on a handful of occasions that he breaks down and cries. It's not 100% the truth. And James identifies that when he takes up the writing at the end of Codename Bloodhound and in Figure Breaking Point, by basically saying a lot of the things he said were true, but some things weren't, and I'm not going to point out 100% which things were true, because I could also be lying. So it was kind of getting a little bit muddy. And then I thought, instead of having James tell this story, I'm going to get somebody else to tell it who is, in one way or another, a neutral party. Somebody who is literally just gathering all the facts and compiling it into this newspaper. And the character, he has a name, but I don't want to give away too much, so I'm just going to refer to him as Max. So Max, he lives in Australia, and he moved to the USA after he heard about this story, and he wanted to find out more about the story. And basically he's fascinated by Tim as a person and the life he wound up living, which was not 100% his own choice. So he's basically telling the story, so that people in Australia or anywhere else in the world get the real facts of what started all this mess, and also brings up points where certain things could have probably prevented this entire thing happening, like he basically says here, Tim getting out of the car, walking off into the desert on his own, and his friends getting fed up and leaving, and him getting abducted. Basically saying, him walking out of the car and saying, sod it, I'm going off on my own, is basically him saying that there is where it all started to go wrong. Because he couldn't have a civil conversation with his friends about a problem that they were having inside their group, and decided, sod it, I'm going. And basically, the comic is following the story from this neutral character Max, and will eventually go on further and cover the entire series of novels. So certain extracts from Figure Breaking Point do come up. I mean, I just closed the window, but there was basically a little section in there where Kyle was lecturing Tim, saying basically, you need to start showing a bit more respect to us, because it's either getting help from us or getting help from them. And by them he means some mental institute his parents tried to send him to. So when he's giving Tim this little lecture, it brings up some things that are mentioned in the 3rd volume of the book, namely Figure Breaking Point. And those little inserts will appear throughout the whole comic, but I'm trying to make sure it's not too filled with flashbacks, because we've already got a bit of a flashback going on here, because the Max starts out basically saying, oh, this is what people expect me to tell the story from, but I'm actually going to tell it from here. So he's already done a flashback for us, and he doesn't really need to do many more. He just puts them in when and where necessary, basically to flesh out something. So this story on this issue ends with Tim being taken away, and the next issue starts with him in the laboratory. Now, it could have started a little bit earlier on, back when he was at school and having problems, which would have, you know, built up to this section of the story. But these little inserts will help flash out a bit more of the scenarios that take place in the overall story. So, without giving away too much, in the next issue, it's obviously him getting his superpowers through the illegal experimentation. And when he falls unconscious, instead of just filling that area in with a black void again, because that's what Max pretty much does here. He gives a black void with a few little drawings, you know, of certain events that actually happened or what Tim said happened. Instead of filling it with that, I'm going to have him fill those areas where Tim's unconscious or somebody else is unconscious in with some flashbacks to Figure Breaking Point, as long as they're necessary. So in this next issue, Tim learns that his parents sold him out and wanted him gone, and the best way to get him gone was to volunteer him into this program. And he learns that in this, and then when he falls unconscious during the procedure, a flashback is inserted, basically showcasing just how neglected he was as a child. So as you can see, that's how that's going to play out. Now, without rambling any longer on the story of this comic, next on the agenda is the printing. Now, as you saw, I've got the document all laid out. It just needs that one page at the front, which is the introduction, and a page for copyright. it's got its front cover. It does not have a back cover, because most of the time when I look at comics, they're either advertising other comics on the back, or they're advertising for a product, and I don't have any of those things put on the back. I could put the original novels on the back, but I've not finished the redesign for the new covers, because obviously the covers which are here, they are not the final covers. This is the first edition covers, and when it goes into the rewrite stage, it will get new covers, and I'd rather have those shown in the future rather than just keep throwing these old ones in. As you can see on the circulation of the current project, I'm trying to show just the latest designs, or the latest cover designs, at least for these projects. So going down the list, Subject to 18 the comic, issue 1 is now done, and I'm hoping to have that up for print within the next few days. But I'm just going to order myself a sample copy, and then over the next few weeks I'm going to either refine that design so that it looks even better if it's got some flaws, or add to it if I think that a certain area might need a bit more detail, and then when that's done, it will be up for sale. And it will only be up for sale on Lulu, because Amazon and that lot will not distribute the size that I've looked for. So, Subject to 18 the novel, as you know, is getting a rewrite. It's not in that section yet. The person who's going to proofread it and help me with the rewrite is not available yet. But the rewrite is just basically structure, so that it flows better, it reads easier, because at the moment it reads fine to me, and it reads fine to a few other people, but as a whole some find it a little bit too difficult to get into, because Tim swears that much. So I need another set of fresh eyes to look it over and help me basically make it a little bit more pleasant to read. So my Gakido, that is making a lot of progress. It's halfway done. That probably won't be finished in time for Pride, which I believe Hall Pride is on my birthday, the 22nd of July. I don't know if it'll be ready by then, because even if I've finished writing it, I need to get someone to proofread it, and the person who's proofreading the Jinimaru work is backlogged, so they don't have the time to read it. So I don't know when that will be ready. Hopefully it will be ready for Comic-Con at least. Right, Specimen G13, same boat, exactly the same boat as Jinimaru Folklore and the guidebooks. Well, not really the guidebooks, because the guidebooks are being just sectioned, so they're exactly the same content, except they have new artwork and a few new additions to it, and they're structured so that one book is just exclusively for breeds, one is exclusively for behaviour, one is exclusively for social and religious things. So those the mini bite-sized guides should be available for Comic-Con. At least some of them should, but I'm not going to give an exact date. But Specimen G13 and Jinimaru Folklore Volume 3, 4 and above, they're stuck in a queue, and I don't know when they're going to be available, so I am sorry about that. But I will let you know as soon as they are ready. So Rorix Dinosaur, as we know, it has finally had its first book finished. I've had every single flaw that was detected in the sample resolved. The issue I had with Amazon removing 2 of the pages for some reason is resolved, but it won't be for sale on Amazon yet, because I have to order another sample copy to verify it. The other volumes might have their covers ready, and they have their stories briefed out, but none of the artwork is ready, and those won't be worked on now until my Gakido is finished and the next issue of Subject 218 is finished, because I'm going to alternate between a written project, the comic, a written project, the comic. So after my Gakido is finished, I will be doing issue number 2 of the comic, and then when issue number 2 is finished, I will do either Raw It's Dinosaur number 2, or I will finish Specimen G13 if my proofreader has caught up by then. And then obviously issue 3 of the comic, and then one of the other ones. So that is everything in regards to the written projects. There is another project we've been working on. When I say we, I mean me and a family member, which is some enamel badges of the Trans Pride Gakido, which can be found here. So obviously as well, this is the new layout for my streams, and it's the new design basically, so that it looks a little bit more professional. Now, the badge in question is not the whole flag, it is just Gakido with the transgender symbol, and the I think if I can add the image, let me just, well, you can see in the My Gakido cover there, but I will try and add the image. It might look very big because I have a huge file resolution for this image, and this is the enamel version, which means it has no shading, and I have simplified the colours. So this website will not be here on the original pins. The website will not be there. They are going to be about 30mm tall, which, if I get my ruler, 30mm tall is about 3 centimeters, I believe. So it's about up to there, and they will come with backing cards, which will have the website, social media, all that malarkey on it. And we have already paid for them, and I'm just waiting now for the sample artwork, and then I will approve that artwork if I'm happy with it, and then they should be here within 2 to 4 weeks. So we'll soon see. It's very exciting. We've never done anything like this before. I've definitely never done anything like this before. In the future, I want to be able to do a lot more things like this. But we will soon see. Now, that's all for this week. Next week, if I have a sample of the comic, I will do another video. If I don't have a sample for the comic, I won't do a video, I'll just do a short written entry. If I have any of the enamel pins as well, I'll show them, but I doubt I'll have them that early. So I'm going to call it here. I hope you're looking forward to the comic. I've been loving every minute I've been working on it, even though I've been working tirelessly from about 8:30 in the morning to about 9 o'clock at night on sometimes, without anything but a toilet break and occasional food break. So I hope you've been enjoying following the development as much as I've enjoyed doing it, and I hope looking forward to more in the future. If you want to follow the development further of the projects, remember to go on the website and subscribe to the newsletter, and every time I upload a journal entry, which is once a week, every Wednesday, you will get an email saying what it is. You won't even have to go to the website, I believe. And if you want to look at any other projects I've been doing, like a little bit of fan art here and there, or some rough drafts that I decided to scrap, they're all available on DeviantArt. So I'm going to leave it here, and I will see you next week. Ta-ra.